I've got a lot of different bolt action Nerf blasters. And yet the Smiley here can do something that none of those other blasters can do. The Smiley is a remix of the Wrenfield Mark III from Mr. Heath Pants. This is a 3D printed blaster, so you just download the files off printables, buy the hardware that's listed in the description, either sourcing it yourself or buying a hardware kit, put it all together, and you get this, or really a bunch of different combinations of this, because there are different ways you can customize this blaster. This is the setup that I landed on here. There are different barrel lengths, different foregrip lengths, different stock variants, different ways you can attach rails, but that's just right now. This entire platform will evolve over time as more people get their hands on it and customize the parts inside. Unlike a lot of other blasters out there, the Smiley actually uses Nightengale magazines, or the slim angled Talon style mags. Or in this case, you can also just use the mags that came with your Venom Pro from Dart Zone. And it's a really compact and lightweight bolt action blaster. True bolt action, I might add. The entire blaster itself, if you just kind of remove the stock and most of the barrel right there, is really compact. But even in this full setup that hits over 200 feet per second velocities, it is just a little handy dandy terror. Now, as of me making this video, there is no build guide, and really to get this entire blaster up and running, I have one person to thank, and that is my buddy Adam, who not only sent me the hardware kit because he was like, dude, you have to get your hands on this thing, you're gonna love it, but also sat in over a 90-minute call on Messenger taking his apart and walking me through how to build this thing because there are currently no build instructions, which is like the only complaint I have about this, and that should be fixed rather shortly. Even just trying to figure out where you're supposed to start with this thing is a challenge. But for many of you, it won't be a problem at all because the parts will go together one way, and there is a guide on where most of the screws and stuff go. But once you have it complete, the Smiley is a blaster that's unlike pretty much anything else out there. The plunger system, the propulsion system for flinging your foam dart, is actually located in the stock at an angle, yet it's a bolt action, so when you prime this thing back, it's actually camming the whole priming system into the grip at an angle, which is way smoother than it has any right to be. Push that back home, lock that into place, and you can fire your blaster. But that name Smiley is a little peculiar, right? I mean, where did that even come from? I don't think it's because of the smile you'll get on your face when you actually have one of these things in your hand. But the Wrenfield Mark III that this blaster is based off of uses custom magazines and does shell ejecting. And because that's designed by Mr. Heath Pants, it has a lot of real steel inspiration. And wouldn't you know it, it's based off of the short magazine Lee Enfield. So the SMLE, you add an I and a Y to that and you've got the Smiley. That is an amazing name, Mighty Shrub. And the blaster works very similar to its namesake. It's really easy to convert this thing from left or right-handed. The bolt handle will literally just flip around when you're putting it together. It's sandwiched in between a couple of parts here. But because of its short throw and the fact that it's an actual bolt, you can actually use the Mad Minute technique on this blaster to fire it way faster than you would imagine a bolt action could throw foam. Starting off the barrel, we do have a standard 16mm outer diameter, so it's compatible with pretty much all of your SCAR muzzle stabilization devices. But you can also untwist this collet here and replace the barrel with whatever length you want, which means it's not only quick to break down, but there's a ton of customization. There's also different hand guards here that you can put on. Here's the shorter one that comes with the files, but I opted for the longer one, and there are different rail setups for both. And there's even optional points if you want to put like rails on the side and whatnot. I chose this longer Picatinny rail and this shorter one down here, which you could use for some kind of bipod. This area right here in front of the magazine well actually works really good as a grip, and the magazine doesn't require you to prime the blaster first to remove it, and the mag release is ambidextrous. It doesn't freely drop mags all that well, but your mileage may vary on that one. Behind that, we've got our trigger. It's a very simple hinged design, and it works fairly well. It's not the best I've ever used, but I have no real complaints about it. And your main grip back here is where all your internals are in, so it is a little bit chunky. It's a bit much for my small hands, but I find it perfectly comfortable. I, again, have no complaints about it whatsoever. There are different options for stocks. This is the skeleton stock version, but there is one that uses like an end strike stock if you want to, or you can go stockless. But more importantly, this pin right here, if you yank that out, you can actually pull out the backstop and remove the spring, which makes the blaster completely a toolless disassembly. This pin is also really stuck in on mine, so it will work perfectly fine as a sling point. Speaking of which, not only could you wrap a sling through any of this right here, but there's also a dedicated sling loop loop right there. The bolt might be my only contention point on this blaster, the only thing that I think could use a little bit of improvement, and there will be metal bolts available, but the piece I have right here is 3D printed, which is at 100% infill. So this thing is one solid 3D printed piece of plastic with no gaps in it. And when operating it the way you probably would with like 1 or 2 fingers and pulling that just back, it flexes a little bit, and it flexes just enough that makes this pull not exactly the smoothest thing ever. It's honestly a really smooth setup, but if I just grip it like this, I'm pulling back and it's not catching because there's just enough wiggle in there. That's because mechanically it's obviously getting torqued in one direction, and that's not good for it. To fix that, you kind of use your thumb to brace and push the bolt the other direction to counteract the flex, and that works perfectly. But because of the location of the trigger, it's very easy for you to prime this thing back, and when you push it forward and lock it, your finger can naturally fit into the trigger well and operate the blaster with like your middle finger. You can also use your trigger finger if you want, but it's a little bit more of a reach. And that is the hidden secret about the Smiley that makes it pretty much the best bolt action I have ever used. I'm not saying throw your worker Kunlun in the dumpster, but I am saying if you don't have a bolt action and you want one of the best ones, I think the Smiley is perfect for you. It does take a lot of practice, and honestly, I'm not that very good at it, but you could get really quick with that. And having a blaster where you can dedicate yourself to practicing a whole new skill that would increase your effectiveness on the field is a ton of fun. You will fear the player that masters this blaster platform. But of course, all of that is meaningless if it doesn't perform. And does it? Well, of course, this is a 3D printed blaster. There are things that could go wrong. There are things that could go right. And of course, there are so many different ways you could customize this that will affect your performance. But the setup I have right here with Adventure Force Pro Darts hits anywhere from about 180 feet per second to about 200 feet per second, which is incredibly high. That is much stronger than anything NERF offers, even in their Pro line, and is on par with Dart Zone's Pro offerings. But Adventure Force Pro Darts are 1 gram darts, so if we bump the weight down a little bit, and also maybe use a design that has these ribs on it, which decreases the friction on the barrel, we can hit up to 240, sometimes even 250 feet per second, just from an ammo type change. And normally that would lead to a lot of inaccuracies, but I haven't seen it. This blaster loves Bamboo Gen 2 darts, and I really hope to get my hands on the Nitro Shot Plus Bamboo darts because I have a feeling it will be an absolute monster with those. Speaking of accuracy, I was using this 3D printed B-card because I didn't have anything that fit the color scheme of this blaster and still had an orange tip, but I was still incredibly impressed with the precision of this blaster. It's pretty comfortable, it's got a pretty decent trigger, the length of pull is perfect, the blaster is super light and handy, to the point where I completely forgot I was even filming, and I just started bombing the targets as much as I can, blowing through an entire box of Bamboo X2 darts. I set up this low profile optic that I got from Evike, dialed it in, put the dot on the target, and it never let me down. Really, the thing that was causing my inaccuracies was my own speed. I was trying to go faster and faster and faster, and that saw my precision drop and drop. But that's just a testament to how fun and handy this blaster is. There are very few blasters out there in the wild that when I pick them up, I absolutely just cannot put them down, and I drive myself to get better with them. And with the Smiley, I feel I haven't even begun to uncover what this thing is capable of in my hands. And while I think many of you would agree that pump action simply is just easier to use and far more reliable, it's also kind of getting boring, and having this kind of option out there, which I can feel could be just as effective as a pump action blaster in the right hands, with far more work, mind you, is a breath of fresh air. Really, the only thing stopping the Smiley from being the best blaster out there ever is you. Some people might not be a fan of the choice of the magazine, going for something that isn't a Talon mag, but I actually think this design goes super hard. I love how the magazine is guided in by the trigger guard, and I love how sleek and compact these magazines are. I do have a single Nightengale mag, but I think the Venom Pro mags are the way to go. But there is one thing I want to point out with this blaster. And that's, make sure you print the bolt handle flat against the print bed at absolutely 100% infill, because I printed 3 different bolts. I printed one with a little bit of less infill, one that was vertical, and one that was flat. And my theory with the vertical one is that all the layer lines would be going horizontal, and since I'm pulling backwards, that should make it a bit stronger. And it was all well and good, and I still don't really want to put this footage on the internet, but while I was testing it, the bolt handle actually broke in half, which caused me to punch myself right in the eye and cut my finger pretty darn good. And even after all of that, I still love this blaster and could not wait to get it up and running again. It's smooth, sleek, powerful, fast, accurate. It just does everything I want a bolt action to do while being super customizable. There's no doubt in my mind this thing could probably hit harder than what it is right now. It's a really nice and light pull. And if you were to tune this thing down, it would be so much fun to use because it's gonna feel like you're priming nothing at all. This system right here that Mr. Heath Pants developed is freaking amazing. And I'm so thankful Mighty Shrub put this in a more practical setup. If you want the extra dopamine of shells flying out every single time you prime it, absolutely get yourself a Wrenfield Mark III. I could do better. But for everybody else that wants something that's a little bit different but can still be incredibly competitive, yeah, why would you not go with this platform? And as somebody who has many of the bolt action options out there available for a pro level enthusiast in the foam flinging hobby, this is absolutely my favorite one. And I think it can only get better from here as more people tweak this blaster, change maybe some of the aesthetics. As I kind of wish this handguard was a bit more comfortable with the way you kind of have to hold it, and maybe even making the bolt a little bit more ergonomic for that slam fire that you can do with it, the Mad Minute technique. Round it off a little bit more in places and make it a little bit easier for you to reach down into that trigger well with your middle finger. And of course, different stocks and maybe even different mag types. The Smiley has so much to offer right now and so much more room to grow. And honestly, I'm not even a huge fan of bolt actions. If you have a 3D printer, absolutely squirt out this blaster. It is fantastic. I'll have a link to the printables page down in the description below. There are of course hardware kits, but you can also source everything yourself off Amazon. And better yet, it shares mags with your Venom Pro, and the Venom Pro is the best secondary you can ask for something like this because it's a one-handed mag and grip flywheel pistol that's fully automatic. So if you ever feel yourself caught off guard, you can just pull one of these things out, mag dump whatever's in front of you, and get back to plinking. I'm telling you, man, this blaster will give you nothing but smiles.